I hope that Republican district attorneys and attorney generals throughout the country are closely watching the tremendous weaponization of justice that is being utilized against me. There's never been anything like it. But you ought to watch, and frankly, it's an eye for an eye, or it's fight fire with fire. What they're doing to our country is amazing. So Republicans, I hope you're watching.
You know who that message is for, don't you? He just said it. It's not for Democrats. We already know he's going to line Democrats up and throw them into jail. He's already said that, right? He said that to Glenn Beck the other day. We have no choice. We're going to throw them in jail. Now, as you heard, that's a very clear message to Republicans. Decide if you want to get locked up with them. Make no mistake, what you just heard there from Trump was a clear signal to see who among the Republican establishment is with him and who's with the Democrats. You know, like the feckless Georgia Republican Governor Brian Kemp and the equally gutless coward of an attorney general, Chris Carr. They could shut this whole Fulton County sham down literally this minute, but they refuse. They refuse because they're in on it. And President Trump, as he's poised to return to office, is sending out the signal, a Republican establishment, be prepared to go down with the Democrats if you're not fully with me. And according to the latest polls, gang, it's going to be utterly epic. Greetings, everyone. It is a special Labor Day weekend live stream Friday. I'm your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. If you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We are live on both YouTube and Rumble. Super chats and super stickers are up, so send me your questions. I will answer them in due course. As you can see, today's show is nothing but fire. Wait until you see these polls. All post mugshot polls. They are absolutely panicking the Democrats. And not just the Democrats. As you just heard, they're panicking the feckless, disgusting excuse for Republican Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, Liz Cheney 2.0. They're panicking DeSantis, who's not so quietly rooting for these indictments because he can't win without them. They're panicking Pence. You know, the Mike, I defended the Constitution, Pence. And these polls would be panicking Biden if he were actually cognizant. None of these clowns knows what to do because now Trump is going full animal. He's talking about locking them up. He's talking about taking down the whole of the deep state with Schedule F. He's talking about dismantling the entire administrative state. And he's just getting warmed up, and we're just getting warmed up. Like I said, we got nothing but fire for you today on our special Labor Day weekend live stream Friday. Super chat, super stickers are up. Send me your questions. And before we do anything else, gang, you have got to click on that link below and make sure that you do not miss out being a part of something that is truly epic. And no, I'm not talking about the return of Trump. Last week, dozens of nations met in Johannesburg to discuss a new trade currency backed by gold. And you don't want to miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get in on the action. We've got some amazing friends to this channel who can help you do just that. We partner with a top-rated precious metals company called Goldco, who've helped patriots across the nation move over $1 billion into gold and silver. You heard that right? That's billion with a B. They're absolutely amazing. Click on that link below. And for those of you with retirement accounts, the patriots over at Goldco are offering up to $10,000 in free silver. You heard that right? $10,000 in free silver when opening up a qualified IRA account. And for cash buyers, you're going to love this. You can get bonus silver for just making a purchase. So if you buy $15,000 worth of precious metals, you're going to get $750 in bonus silver. If you buy $25,000 in precious metals, you're going to get $1,200 worth of bonus silver. But that's only as long as supply lasts. So don't wait. Click on that link below right now. This is your opportunity get in on a once-in-a-lifetime ground floor for this new international turn towards the timeless value of gold and silver. So click on that link below right now. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. We are now 1 week out from what has already turned out to be the single most iconic mugshot of all time. The lunatic left that currently occupies our nation's cultural institutions, the lunatics that have taken over our country, they thought that this would humiliate him. They thought this would denigrate him. They thought this was the moment that finally, he would find himself degraded beyond repair before the scornful eyes of the nation. And then, last Saturday, not even 48 hours after the mugshot was released, the Democrats woke up to this. Trump took what was supposed to humiliate him and demoralize him. Go to the next shot, Josh. Thank you. Trump took what was supposed to humiliate him and demoralize all of us, his supporters, and turned it into one of the biggest campaign fundraising events ever. President Trump set a new fundraising record, raising over $7 million in a single weekend. The campaign's fundraising actually reached over $4 million in hours after the mugshot was released. $4 million in hours, which made it the highest fundraising in a single day since Trump announced his 2024 candidacy. And then, suddenly, the reporting in the legacy media, particularly here in the Atlantic, started taking a very noticeable, ominous turn. They started getting nervous. These woke, left-wing, cultural, Marxist activists disguised as journalists suddenly started to realize the freaking unthinkable for them. That this guy really might win. This guy might really pull it off. If everything that we've thrown at him doesn't hurt him, but actually makes him stronger, then he might really actually pull this off. Well, if they were starting to panic at the beginning of this week, after the fundraising record over last weekend, now at the end of the week, they're starting to get full-blown hysterical. And that's because now, 1 week after the mugshot, to end all mugshots, the polls are out. And they are utterly devastating for bumbling Biden and the Democrats. Take a look at the latest McLaughlin polling. Trump is now beating Biden by 47 to 43. Now, this is the first time in McLaughlin's polling that Trump has ever been winning the popular vote. According to McLaughlin, officially beating Biden with we're not talking electoral vote anymore. We're talking the popular vote. And when it comes to the electoral vote, it gets even more amazing. Take a look at the battleground polling. In the battleground states, Trump is crushing Biden by almost 10 points, 49 to 41. I'm going to say that again. I just want you to savor that. 1 week after this mugshot, Trump is beating Biden in the swing states by nearly double digits. I mean, you have to let that hit you. What that means, very simply, is that if the election were held today, Trump would crush Biden in an electoral landslide. It would make 2016 pale by comparison, when Trump was the first Republican to win over 300 electoral votes in 30 years. And the internals for the poll are stunning. They're showing that now young voters are abandoning Biden and swinging to Trump in droves. Young voters, gang. We know he's already losing the non-white working class. We know he's already losing Black men. We know he's already losing Latinos. We know he's already lost the white working class. Now Biden is losing young voters. Voters under 30 voted for Biden overwhelmingly in 2020, 60 to 36. But the latest McLaughlin polling shows that lead has now dwindled to 53 to 42, a 13-point swing towards Trump. And all these young people, all these under 30s are pointing to a sluggish economy as their reason. Nearly 60% of voters under 30 think the economy is getting worse, and it's literally killing Biden politically. Young voters already think we're in a recession, and that's bad news for any incumbent. Remember, historically speaking, no incumbent has won re-election if a recession occurs anytime in the last 2 years of his term in office. No incumbent has won re-election if a recession occurs anytime in the last 2 years of his term in office. This is why the legacy media is so reluctant to use the R word. But that lie by omission, that deliberate silence from the Marxist media is not convincing to young voters. They're abandoning Biden. They're swinging to Trump. And a Democrat cannot win, fairly, of course. A Democrat cannot win with the margins that small among their key constituents. But it's not just McLaughlin. The latest YouGov poll, post-mugshot poll, has Trump beating Biden nationally by 44 to 43. Now, keep in mind, Trump has never, ever, ever led a YouGov poll. In fact, the last YouGov poll before the 2020 election had Biden blowing away Trump by 10. This is a massive double-digit swing to Trump. And we can keep going. The latest Emerson poll, again, post-mugshot, has Trump up by 2, 46 to 44. He's up by 5 if Cornel West, the Green Party candidate, is factored in, which he will be. Again, Trump has never, ever led in a single Emerson poll. Emerson had Biden winning by 5 the day before the 2020 election. We have the Schoen-Cooperman poll. Doug Schoen, a Democrat pollster, he has Trump up by 1, 45 to 44. And Schoen-Cooperman also asked how voters felt about Trump as president retrospectively. And they gave Trump 52% approval rating, while Biden dwindled to just 44% approval. So Trump has an 8-point lead in approval rating as president over Trump, or over Biden. Here's the latest Morning Consult poll. It's Trump 43-42. Again, all these polls have two things in common. They all show Trump beating Biden, and they're all post-mugshot. And it gets even sweeter because it's vitally important to remember Trump always outperforms the polls. I mean, Trump always outperforms the polls. He outperformed in 2016, outperformed in 2020. He always outperforms the polls. This is why Tucker made that bombshell statement in his interview on the Adam Carolla podcast the other day. Check it out.
I mean, look, if, they protested him, they called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times, and every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that, but I don't know how you can reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, they have decided, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just can't have him. I mean, they're putting him on trial in March of next year in the J6 case, which basically consists of trying to send him to prison for the rest of his life for complaining about the last election. That's literally what it is. Again, if this were happening in Moldova, the State Department would issue an all-hands-on-deck order to let the world know this is not a legitimate government. And yet our government is doing it. It's like it's hard to overstate how bad this is. And I don't know where it's going, but there's a collision that's clearly imminent. And by the way, the president is senile in a way that's impossible to deny. Biden's not running the government, so like, I don't know, man. I've never been this worried about anything as I am about where this is going.
Yeah, you heard him. We are speeding towards assassination at this point. That's the logical trajectory of where we're going. They are doing everything they can to take him out. I mean, this is why I said in yesterday's video, when all is said and done, this is not happening because of what Democrats are doing. This is happening because of what Republicans are allowing. We'll get into this as we more and more into this video, so stick with me all the way in. You're going to love it. And of course, we're going to take your questions. Any questions? Super chats are up. Super stickers are up. Ask me your questions both on YouTube and Rumble. I will answer them in due course. We went over 2 hours last week. We had some fun last week. We're rocking. This is not happening because of what the Democrats are doing. This is happening because of what the Republicans are allowing. I said this in yesterday's video. This is the Republican debate sponsored by that filth, Rupert Murdoch, and the donor class are such an absolute and total farce. They are virtual politics on steroids, kabuki theater at its absolute worst. Here you've got a man leading the Republican pack by more than any other candidate ever in a primary. I mean, this is a blowout. What was it? What are the stats? In 2016, right around this time, Trump had about a 10-point lead over the pack. In 2012, Romney had about a 1-point lead. In 2008, interestingly, right around this time was Giuliani, who had like an 8-point lead or so over the pack. Trump right now in some polls has a 50 to 60-point lead over these guys. This isn't a primary. This is a pummeling. This is a freaking sideshow. This is a freak show. You've got a man who is leading the Republican pack by more than any other candidate ever. There's no way on earth any of them are going to come anywhere near to winning this nomination, no matter how many pathetic, paid-for, shilled polls Rupert Murdoch puts up. And we know that precisely because of what they're trying to do to Trump. If they knew they could take him out politically via a DeSantis or a Vivek or whatever, or Glenn Youngkin, he wouldn't have 4 indictments. He's got 4 indictments because they know they can't take him out in these primaries. The establishment is literally trying to take out our presumed nominee, the nominee that 60, 70, 80, 90% of this party, of the rank and file, would vote for in a heartbeat. And freaking Fox News is having debates all as he's being legally persecuted. Every single Republican on the planet, rather than having debates, should be up in arms. But they're not. At least the leadership isn't. And that's, of course, because our feckless rhino leadership, as you just heard it from Tucker, are in on it. They want Trump gone every bit as much as the Democrats do because he's a threat. He's an absolute threat. There's no way around. He's a threat to the system upon which their power and affluence depend. And again, it's all to no avail. No matter how much Rupert Murdoch's shameless enterprises shill for DeSantis, gang, I have to research what's out there and what's being talked about each and every day. I mean, what Fox News is pushing, what the New York Post is pushing is shameless shilling. They know it's not true, but they don't want to have to happen to them what happened to Tucker. No matter how much they shamelessly shill, DeSantis continues to implode. Did you see this? We might as well report on it. The latest of this DeSantis debacle. One of DeSantis' major super PACs just folded. $50 million super PAC called Run to the Rescue is shutting down. And according to the Daily Mail, the donors, they're now solidly behind Trump. It's just hilarious. I don't even know what to say. They're now of course they're behind Trump. Who else are you going to get behind? And that's what we should be seeing all across the board here. We should be seeing every single super PAC, every single candidate, every single establishment Republican leader get behind the one man the vast majority of the party stands behind. So stand up with the rank and file they claim to represent and push back against this Democrat insanity full force. The very fact that you have so many feckless, pathetic rhinos like Georgia Governor Brian Kemp acting, pretending, lying that what's happening in Fulton County is completely nonpartisan exercise and legitimate litigation. That is a flipping travesty, and it's all the more venomously blasphemous that it's coming out of the lips of a Republican. It's a spit in the face of tens of millions of faithful Republicans who give these scumbags our money, our time. We campaign for them. We knock on their doors, and then they turn around and take a dagger and they stick it in our back and say, F you, screw you. I got multi-million-dollar donors. I don't need you. These rhino establishment neocons hate and despise the working class base of the Republican Party because they see those tens of millions of otherwise faithful Republicans as threats to the very system from which they derive their power and affluence. So they hate us every bit as much as they hate Trump. So what they're trying to do to Trump vicariously is what they're trying to do to us. They're trying to lock up our vote, shut us down. But as it turns out, it looks like, ironically, not even the rhinos are safe from these insidious lunatics that run the Democratic Party. Our get out of jail free card is the fact that Democrats are lunatics. They're nuts. They don't know how to play the game with the Republican establishment. You're going to absolutely love this latest development coming out of California and what they plan to do to the governor of Texas. Gang, this is a game changer. It's going to absolutely make your day. But first, let's show some love to our livers, shall we? Did you know that the latest data from the American Heart Association indicates that adults with fatty liver were 3.5 times more likely to have heart failure than those without? And did you know that the American Liver Foundation estimates as many of us as 100 million Americans got fatty liver? That's you, that's me. We can't save America if we don't take care of ourselves. Our livers are our body's master detoxifier, but after decades of wear and tear, our livers slow down, they become sluggish, And this is why so many of us struggle with weight gain, feeling tired of all the time. But gang, fortunately, there's a simple, all-natural solution. Liver Health Formula contains 12 powerful botanicals, clinically proven to recharge and protect your liver at the cellular level. It helps restore your liver's detoxifying abilities. It boosts your energy levels and works remarkably well to fight that horribly fatty liver. That horrible thing. Liver Health Formula is backed by proven science and approved by American doctors as well. And the best part, every bottle is manufactured right here in the good old USA. Click on that link below right now and try Liver Health Formula completely risk-free. Do it today, and you're going to actually receive 5 free gifts. So don't wait. Click on that link below or go to getliverhelp.com/Turley right now. All right, gang. Now, Texas Governor Abbott may now soon find himself indicted by a Los Angeles court. I kid you not. That's if this Los Angeles City Council, insane, woke, nutty, lunatic city council, gets its way. It's being widely reported that the Los Angeles City Council is investigating Texas Governor Greg Abbott's decision to bus migrants over to Los Angeles, just like he's been doing to New York. And the council unanimously approved 2 motions to probe. You're going to love this. 2 motions to probe whether Abbott committed any crimes by transporting migrants and if legal action can indeed be taken against him. One motion directs the city attorney to investigate potential legal action against Abbott. If there's any potential civil legal action that can be taken against him in Texas regarding the initial busing incident. But the other resolution is a resolution, unanimously passed, calling on LA County District Attorney, another county DA, as well as the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland, to open up an investigation into Governor Greg Abbott and bring charges as necessary. These lunatic liberal Democrats are so insane. They are so stupid. They are so utterly moronic that they're now actually going after establishment Republicans, the very establishment Republicans that have thus far been teaming up with them to take out Trump. Now, that I can assure you is something that rhino Republicans like Brian Kemp are not going to lie down and take. No. That's like indicting the sweet little angel Mike Pence. I did it for the Constitution, Pence. That's like indicting Mitch McConnell, the national staring contest winner. Mitch McConnell. You can indict Trump. By golly, indict Trump. We want him gone too. He's a threat to our both Democrat and Republicans' power and affluence. But don't you dare indict a member of the establishment. That's when the Democrats have officially gone too far. Now, I'm not trying to be too hard on Governor Greg Abbott. He's one of the better establishment folks. He's all right. But Texas, as you know, I'm sure many of you know, Texas is so infested with rhinos who only do the bidding of their mega donors. Remember, we got studies on this, gang. We talked about this last week. There was a study published by Princeton University a few years back, and its conclusions they're frankly chilling. The study concluded that the United States is indeed an oligarchy. It's indeed dominated by a rich and powerful elite that have amassed more money and more power and more political persuasion than ever before in the history of mankind. And the study found that this elite, made up of bureaucrats and billionaires, who by the way, donor class fund think tanks like National Review that are supposedly conservative. I mean, all the whole Washington so-called conservative think tanks, they're all funded by these bureaucrats and billionaires. They're just fronts for this oligarchy. They have more influence over the direction of our government policy, way more than do average citizens. In fact, the study found that elections have virtually no impact whatsoever on public policy, and it doesn't even matter if it's Republican or Democrat. And that's because public policy is almost entirely shaped by the corporate interests of the wealthy few. It was a very interesting study. I mean, what these professors at Princeton did is they reviewed answers to surveyed questions over the course of 20 years. And those surveyed questions were all on public policy issues. And then the answers were broken down according to the income level of those who were being surveyed. And what the study found is that when you were, say, the lowest 80%, okay, so you've got your highest 20%, very, very rich, and then 80% upper middle class, lower class, subclass, what have you. What they found is that whenever the 80% supported an issue, but the top 20% incomers didn't, that issue never got passed. Rarely, I should say. However, it was the opposite. If the top 20% income earners supported an issue, but 80% of the rest of us didn't, nevertheless, it ended up getting passed. I'm just thinking of like the Ukraine situation right now, with all the money just being wasted in Ukraine. And again, it worked the other, it didn't matter what the issue was. If the donor class supported it, it got passed, even if the vast majority of the population didn't want it. And if the donor class didn't want it, it didn't get passed, even if the vast majority of the public wanted it and supported it. And so this study concluded bluntly that we're not a democracy. We're an oligarchy. We are not ruled by the people. We are ruled by a bureaucratic and billionaire elite, both Republican and Democrat. And this is precisely why they want to take out Trump. Because Trump was dismantling their gravy train. I mean, all of the, he can't win. This Ann Coulter crap, he can't win. He can't win. There's no way he can win. Or the National Review and Andy McCarthy, he can't win. He can't win. All the polls show he's the only one who can. All the polls show he's the only one who can. And what the hell are you saying that for when we're having an election in a system that is so fraudulently corrupt? Why are you allowing that to pass? Why are you not straining? But now the latest development, as I just showed you, is now because the Democrats are so stupid, they're such lunatics, now they're going after each other. Establishment Democrats are now going after establishment Republicans. And that is when you're finally going to see retaliation. Like possibly like you never imagined. Now we'll start to see red state attorney generals indict the Democrat leadership. And it'll be a full-blown World War III weaponized lawfare. But nothing like that will even remotely compare with the retribution that promises to come with a Trump reelection, especially a landslide reelection, a bloodbath. This is going to be something beyond anything any of us could have imagined. So all this means that we have obviously to be diligent and smart going into this election. We have to push and push and push forward. They're going to throw everything at us. You heard Tucker's comments. They're going to pull everything they possibly can to thwart Trump from coming to power. They have no choice. Again, Tucker said it. They've got no choice. They know if he gets into power again, they're toast. It's over. They're going to be hiding in their bunkers for 4 years. They simply cannot allow him to come anywhere near the Oval Office again, given how he's already promised to round him up. Remember, he's already told General Mike Flynn, who I had the honor of meeting, wonderful man. He's already told General Flynn, get ready. Get ready. We're going to go full animal. So we have to get the vote out, both on election day and in ballot harvesting, particularly in conservative evangelical churches across the nation where, Even California Republicans in Democrat +4 districts have been able to win because they ballot harvest in probably the single most loyal Republican vote out there. We have to ballot harvest. We have to make sure that 2024 is the single most massive turnout of patriots ever seen in human history. And if we do that, 2024 and the 4 years that follow will be utterly epic. Over to you, gang, as our moderator Josh assembles our questions. And by the way, a huge happy birthday to Josh. It was just his birthday the other day. We love you, buddy. But as he assembles your questions, how many UFC fans do we have out there? We know that the one and only Donald Trump is a huge UFC fan, as are the fighters of him. They absolutely love him. But have you ever wondered what they do to manage their pain? Well, you don't have to, because a fellow patriot and good friend of this channel is precisely the one who provides relief to that pain, and he's here to do the same for you. We all know that as we age, aches and pains are normal, but they don't have to be. And that's where the groundbreaking medical scientist Clint Winters comes in. You've seen Clint on Fox. You've seen him on this channel. He's a world-renowned health expert who's unveiled a natural pain reliever that's taking the world by storm. It's called CB2. It's the 100% drug-free way to get full-body pain relief without dangerous meds, and it is the official pain reliever for the fighters and the UFC. And the best part, gang, CB2 has no documented side effects after years of private testing. It's absolutely the future of pain relief. So whatever you do, make sure to click on that link below. Check out Clint's amazingly informative report on how CB2 is changing lives by providing safe and powerful relief at a fraction of the cost of pain pills. Click on that link below right now. All right, there, Josh. What do we got? Again, we've got our super chats up, super stickers up. Send me your questions. I will answer them in due course. Marilyn Doggety or Dagoti 83, Dr. Steve, do you think Biden will get away with the COVID vaccine and mask mandate? I don't think so. Even Tucker said that. I don't think so. I think that's why Tucker thinks we're going to go into a hot war with Russia. He thinks we're going to go in a hot war with Russia precisely because they can't pull off COVID again. That's what he thinks. And you're seeing Jordan Peterson saying, over my dead body. You're seeing Joe Rogan said, there's no way we're going to comply. You already have the President Trump's coming out saying no compliance. So, I mean, if they want a civil war at this point, go ahead and try to do it. But I don't see it happening. I will see, obviously, but I don't see it happening at this point. Thank you, MD. Mitchell Orion, good to hear from you, my friend. What do you think we do in blue states if they remove Trump from the ballot? So as I understand it, they're not going to be able to do it. This just came in. Trump wins big in court as judge smacks down effort to keep him off the ballot. And ironically, it's an Obama appointed judge. He tossed out a case that was brought up in Florida from an attorney, if I recall. So Judge Robin Rosenberg ruled plaintiffs lack standing. It's going to be very, very hard for them to do it. Even the Secretary of State in Arizona, who's a Democrat, by 300 votes. Yeah. Beating Abe. But he came out and said he has no legal authority whatsoever to keep Trump off the ballot in Arizona. So I don't. And the New Hampshire Republican, what was it, Secretary of State, I believe, backed off from that as well. He said, no, we're not going to do that. So I think the uproar is so much that they're backing away from it. So hopefully we won't have to worry about it. But I think the Supreme Court would smack that down very quickly. Keith, thank you so much for your gift, Keith. Very, very appreciated. Got it. LOL. Thanks again, Keith. Brooks Kelly, if DJT made a campaign promise to pardon all those the DC judge sentenced for J6 prior to his indictment regarding J6, then shouldn't she recuse herself? Absolutely, she's as corrupt as they come. If I recall, she's the one that's related to like far left radical Marxists, I believe, in Jamaica. If I recall, I'm trying to remember if I've got all my facts there off the top of my head, but she's just a radical nut. But she won't, because the DC court system is the most corrupt court system in the nation. So again, this is why are we debating? Why are we having debates? They declared war. let's go to war with these nuts. So again, the theory I'm operating with is because the left is so the lunatic left is so stupid, they're going to eventually go after establishment Republicans like Greg Abbott, and that's when all the establishment Republicans will do what they should be doing now, which is firing back tenfold. You should have every DA in all 30 red states, all 25 supermajority Republican states, take down every single major leader with indictments. So, I mean, every single major Democrat leader with indictments, and say, guys, you want to play this game? We'll play. We'll just shut down our politics, basically. But they won't, because they want to see Trump taken out. This is not happening because of what Democrats are doing. It's happening because of what Republicans are allowing. That's the key. So Stephen Connors, Gumby has more spine than the GOP. Amen to that. Gumby does. And again, the GOP has no spine unless you're trying to take away the source of their power and their affluence. Then they are brutal. Then they are brutal. They will take you out. And that's what they're doing with Trump. So that's what I mean. It's a joke. You know, you've got McConnell having a staring contest there. You've got Mike Pence walking around, I did it for the Constitution. You know that if these guys felt threatened by the Democrats, they would crush them. They would be very, very brutal. They don't, because they're on the same team. And it's only the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, Matt Gaetzes, and so forth, the Carrie Lakes, and who are rising up as representative of the people, of the grassroots, who are pushing back against a permanent political class establishment in both parties. Great, Stephen. Brooks Kelly, I want a merch shirt. Not wanted. Chris Carr is the coward of the county. I would love that. I think Chris Carr is one of the most shameless, disgusting politicians in our modern. I mean, he is, as I understand it, he is required by Georgia law to get involved with any case that requests removal from local courts to from county courts to federal courts. And he has not gotten involved, as I understand it, as required by law, again, because they want to get rid of Trump. The Georgia Republicans are every bit as much your enemy as Stacey Abrams. This is why I never understood. Oh, yeah. Brian Kemp won. He beat Stacey Abrams. Who gives a flip? He's every bit an enemy to MAGA as Stacey Abrams, if not more. Because he could shut down the whole Republican state establishment there. It's disgusting. Thanks, Brooks. Love to see that shirt too. MDE, please explain federalism to DeSantis simps who blame Trump for Fauci. Trump left it up to the states, absolute, to COVID, or better yet, to navigate COVID, or better yet, Fauci. Yeah, I mean, again, Trump. I think Trump is getting a raw deal here. Again, we all have to remember DeSantis was Mr. Lockdown at the very beginning. All right, that the op research has brought that out during the campaign. He found his voice during COVID as leading Florida out, but not at the beginning. And I think, yeah, in the end, I don't think anyone's going to blame Trump for Fauci. Again, is part of the deep state that Trump was dealing with there. And he shouldn't have been there in the first place in the end. No, it's nonsense. When all said and done, as I understand it, we have never, ever had federal vaccine mandates. Never. We have never had federal health mandates. They've always been at the state level. And so if you don't like your state, you can pick up and leave and go to another state. But this idea of a one-size-fits-all totalitarian system to which we are all accountable and from which there is no legal allowable dissent is not Trump. That's not our federalist structure. Thank you, MD. Bud G. Question, Dr. Steve, do you see many neocons rhinos getting hair transplants for their spots or go down like Slim Pickens and Dr. Strange? You're so funny. I love Dr. Strangelove. Love Dr. Strangelove. Great message at the end. Fascism only looks crippled, but it is not. It is rising up in our midst. Yeah, I don't even know how to answer that question. It's a great question. Again, Tucker thinks we're going to a hot war. He does. He thinks we're going to hit. That the permanent political class is going to be so utterly humiliated and embarrassed by Ukraine. It's going to make Afghanistan look like a success in comparison. And it's happening. I mean, you probably all heard the Russians are all set. I mean, word on the street is they're all set to launch the decisive offensive. Finally, they've spent months fortifying their positions. It's the most fortified. The eastern Ukraine is the most fortified place on the planet, even more so than the DMZ, 38th parallel. It withstood everything NATO could possibly throw at them via the Ukrainians since June, the beginning of June, with the counteroffensive that was supposed. I mean, again, leading up to it, you had New York Times, Washington Post saying, they're going to probably take Crimea. I mean, it was just the absurdity of the propaganda was nuts. It was a disaster. They went nowhere. If anything, Russians have gained even more ground and just being able to pick up on their weakness. And now the Russians are they're gonna launch a full scale counteroffensive, and it's apparently it's designed to just push them back west of the Dnieper River, possibly even take Kiev, Odessa in the south, landlock them permanently, decimate their economy. I mean, it's just and all of it has never had to happen. It never had. Just follow the Minsk Accords. This would never have happened. But the West was so insane. NATO was so insane. DC was so insane. They believed they could take Russia out by giving with Ukrainian troops and casualties and NATO technology and equipment and intelligence. They thought they could take Russia out and finally bring in, and then China would be next, and finally bring in their globalist utopia. And it's all blowing up in their face. So, I mean, yeah, Tucker thinks they're going to go the way of Pickens and just, blow it all up. So we'll see. God, keep it in your prayers. I pray about it every day. I just ask God, please spare us of that and kind of insanity, because they're going to be so embarrassed. It's either just admit defeat and go into the sunset of globalism, unipolar world, or just say, in effect, if we don't have a American-centric unipolar world, then we won't have a world. Yeah, and I pray I hope they're not that ideologically bound. I think they're a little bit more bought off than that, easily, because they're so corrupt. But anyway, we'll see, bud. We'll see. Oopie shoot, my friend. Thank you for the euro. On Liz Wheeler's show today, Jenna Ellis kind of complained about Trump not bailing any of them out. She's still pro DeSantis. I guess T has other plans. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been following that at all. But yeah, Jenna, I mean, I've met Jenna Ellis real quick. She was big supporter of Mastriano. I don't know what happened with Jenna. I don't, I can't keep track of all the politically promiscuous attitudes, the Ann Coulters who just go back and forth from all these different candidates. I just tend to think, think clearly. Where are we going? What's the trajectory? The world is moving multipolar. It's getting reterritorialized. It's going from geopolitics to theopolitics. Faith is exploding all over the world like never before. We're seeing that we're going from mass society to network society. We're going from a woke economy to a parallel economy via the BRICS and so forth. What leader is best poised to bring us there? And there's only one. All the other ones, Vivek, we'll see. But even Vivek talking about Taiwan, he's still unipolar. All the other ones are unipolar. All the other ones are globalists in the end, in some way, shape, or form. Only one is fully on board of dismantling the liberal international order, and it's Trump. So why not stick by him? What's the problem? Why do you? So I don't think she even thinks in those frames of reference. Thank you, Pichut. Abdiel Velasquez, thank you so much for that gift. Thank you. VW Bear, I'm afraid that suburban white women at ATL or Atlanta are going to reelect Biden. We'll see. So that's the interesting thing, VW, is that these polls show that Biden is losing support among groups that he tends to super perform with. So all Republicans underperform with suburban women, particularly white women. They underperform with non-white working class super, like, Obama won the non-white working class by 70% margin. I mean, it was just gigantic. They underperform with blacks, underperform with Latinos, Asians, and the like. What we're finding, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, has done some brilliant work here in his analysis. What we're finding is that all those subgroups are moving over to Trump. And it's largely, it seems to be because of the economy. They're very, very worried about the economy. And they see Trump, for better, for worse for them, they see Trump as somebody who can at least, get groceries more affordable again and enable them to actually, heat their homes and maybe even buy a home and the like. So the dramatic margin shrinkage for Biden when it comes to non-white working class, so we're talking primarily Latinos, is astonishing. Obama won them by 70%. Right now, according to the latest New York Times Siena poll, Biden's winning them by 10. He's lost 60% of them. It's this massive swing to Trump. And the reason why, and the reason why is the economy, but the reason why that's so significant is you don't just win by winning groups, winning constituents and demographics, but you have to win them by a particular kind of margin. And if you're only winning the non-white working class by 10% and not 70%, you're not going to win. Your key, your path to victory is a 70% margin of non-white working class. And if you're only getting 10%, you're shot. You can't win. So we'll see. And I think white women, suburban women, and maybe in the Atlanta suburbs, I don't know. We'll see. Last I saw that Trump is actually even doing pretty well with them. He's doing well with people making over $100,000 a year. He's doing well with college grads. These are all groups he underperforms with in 2016, 2020. He's overperforming with them now. So we'll have to see. Thanks, VW. Ken, do you see U.S. moving towards a third-party system? Dem, Socialist Center, Rhinos, centrist Dems, Manchin, and MAGA. Maybe not in 2024, but in going forward. That seems to be the way things are working themselves out. I think you're right. So you got sort of the AOC, Cornel West kind of left, Bernie Sanders sort of left. You got the centrist establishment, center right, center left, and then you've got MAGA. And it seems to me of all those MAGAs, definitely the biggest. MAGA would be about 45%. That would be great. That would be awesome. It would be amazing. We'd have to see how it works out coalition wise. I mean, we'd have to be like Italy, where all you need a 40+% for a majority. You do not need 50+ because they have so many multi parties. And I just I think too more in the moving county lines movement, like we're seeing in the Greater Idaho movement, or what we're seeing in Illinois, where over 20 counties have already voted to look into seceding from Chicago and aligning themselves with Indiana or something like that, just a much more compatible red state. If more and more states are doing that and actively trying through Democratic vote to realign their county border lines with red states and move away from their blue states, like Oregon, what does it have? 32 counties, 28 of the 32 consistently vote Republican. If you didn't have Multnomah County, the Republican would always win by 10%. And they just basically, those 28 counties just want to line up with Idaho, which would make Idaho the third largest state by landmass after that. But if you have all of these blue states doing precisely that, these counties, deep red counties, aligning their borders now with red states, I mean, you have the potential of having a MAGA super state. That's basically what is happening here. So especially as we get more and more organized and aligned with one another, formally aligned politically. So I do think you're seeing a kind of super socialist, far left sentiment rising via Cornel West and all, and anti-establishment. God bless them. I at least think that's wonderful. A shrinking center, and then a MAGA right. I mean, that's just the way things are moving. So right now it's MAGA right overlapping with the pathetic establishment Rhino center, and then the hard left overlapping with the pathetic, neoliberal center left, and nobody seems to be very happy with it. So something may happen. But we'll have to see how that plays out. Thanks, Ken. Mitchell, do you think they would attempt to kill him? That's what Tucker says. I mean, it was one of Tucker's questions to Trump. Are you afraid for your life? But he thinks that's the logical outwork. We are streaming towards assassination. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, they're very brutal. They're very, very brutal. Just ask anyone outside of the United States who has to live under the unipolar world. The United States, since World War II, has been brutal. Just ask Latin America. Brutal in terms of how they protect so-called our sphere of influence and power. When it comes to great power politics, the United States is good. We've been very good. I mean, 70 years we've been calling shots. For half of that, you had the Soviet Union there, so we had limited influence. But when the Soviet Union fell, we were the unipolar power. We created a liberal international order that we made sure to enforce. And anytime we saw anyone challenging that order, Cuba, Iran, most recently, of course, Venezuela, we just absolutely pummeled them. We pummeled them with sanctions if we could. We pummeled them with color revolutions. That's been the popular thing to do since the Obama era, and in Libya and Syria and the like. We've been trying it in Iran. Iran keeps bringing it. We've been trying it in China. China keeps knocking them down. I mean, the United States, the deep state establishment is brutal in cracking down on anything that could come close to threatening their power. And Trump is a threat to their power. So I think they're going to be comparably brutal. I think it was Mark Twain who said, remember, you cannot be an empire abroad and a republic at home. You can't be an empire abroad and a republic at home. And I think what we're seeing is empire tactics coming home to roost. I think what we're seeing is the very tactics the deep state has imposed on the rest of the international order to keep them in line. And they're very tyrannical. Just ask anybody outside of the United States. Those very dictatorial, tyrannical tactics have now come home and are being imposed on us. So that's what I think's going on. Thanks, Mitchell. Bridget Denise, thank you for the gift, Bridget. What do you think about them trying to take Trump off the ballot? Yeah, so we talked about that. It's going to be very hard for them to do that. That's what it's turning out. It's turning out more and more. So you had this guy in Florida, this attorney, and again, I think it was a Republican. I think it was a never Trumper Republican. Tried to get sued to get Trump off the ballot in Florida because he's also crushing DeSantis by 40 points there. But this latest, ironically, Obama appointed judge slapped it down and said, no, you can't do that. Secretary of State of Arizona, Democrat, has come out and said Arizona law does not allow him to do that. And even that feckless, pathetic Republican up in New Hampshire, their Secretary of State, he's come out and said, I'm not doing it either. After he floated the balloon that he would. So, but he got so much backlash from it. So at this point, I don't think we have to worry about it. And I think the Supreme Court would step in, say you cannot do that. But we'll see. We'll see. Mark Gutierrez, our vote doesn't count. They won't let him win. That's so. All right. So two things. Remember, you have to remember the Stockdale principle, Mark. The Stockdale, named after Admiral James Stockdale, who's the most decorated military veteran or just Navy officer as a POW in Vietnam. And he was asked, "How do you survive?" How, a lot of you didn't. I mean, I think it was in their 7 years, many torturings. A lot of you didn't come out. How did you survive? And he said, two kinds of people didn't make it out. One was the naive optimist, the one who says, "Oh, everything's gonna be fine. We'll be out by Christmas." And of course, Christmas comes. Oh, we'll be out by Easter. Oh, we'll be out by the summer. Oh, we'll be out by fall. Oh, we'll be out by Christmas. And they die of a broken heart. But the other one who didn't make it out, the other one who committed suicide in effect, who guaranteed their demise in that darkness, was the perpetual pessimist, right? The one who said, there's just no hope. There's no hope. Screw it. We're done. And he went into his corner, named his rat, and died. What Stockdale said is the ones who survived were able to do two things. They were able to keep together two otherwise paradoxical dispositions, attitudes, inclinations. One, they had to be absolutely sober and realistic about the dire straits that they're in. And two, they can never, ever lose hope that they will prevail. Those are the two things. And it's being used as a business principle now. There's a book called From Good to Great on how to have a great business. And the dispositional inclination that this author recommends is the Stockdale principle. You've got to be absolutely spot on in terms of the dire nature of the challenge that you face, and you cannot lose hope that you're going to overcome it. So that's where we have to be. So don't be careful, Mark. The way you put that makes it sound like you're already naming your rat and you're wasting away in the corner. And what, you're like Denethor in the Lord of the Rings, where you're just basically pouring oil over yourself and lighting yourself on fire and jumping off the cliff. Don't do that. Yes, they want your vote not to count. And yes, they will do everything to make sure he does not win. Yes. So what are we going to do? And when all is said and done, you vote as if your life literally depends on it. You get out there and amass a patriot uprising, the likes of which the world has never seen and will be talking about for years. That's what you do. You go out and you mobilize. You go out and you do something to harvest as much ballots as possible. And we do it legally, and bring out as much of the vote as possible. Because remember, the problem for us is not the vote. We've got the votes. It's getting the vote out. Our vote now tends to be rural, and the rural vote is stubbornly difficult to get out in mass numbers. So do something about it. You find out what you can do. What it could be just it could be a big bus, running a big bus for the day, just busing people from churches to go and vote, or again, just bringing everyone together where you have very, very high church attendance rates and harvesting the ballots there. Now, again, I know, but who counts them? And so then volunteer, do Bannon's precinct strategy. Make sure you're at the precinct and you see how every single vote is counted. You gotta find ways to be able to meet the challenge head on, with always holding out hope that you're going to prevail. And that is how, instead of Denethor, you become Aragorn, and you fight and you rise and you win. Love you, Mark. Raven Rudding does. Honest question: do you think the deep state would try to take Trump out with this type of support for him? It would seem way too dangerous. Anyway, yeah. Again, Raven, I think this is what we're all concerned about, and the very fact that they're doing this legitimately raises questions like this. And think about how insane this question is in the supposed nation that guards democracy. I mean, think about how insane the question is, and it's a perfectly plausible, rational question given what they've been trying to do. They are insane. They are lunatics, and we'll have to see. That's what you pray. Make sure you're praying for his protection, for Trump's protection every single day. We'll have to see. It's that insane. They've gone that nuts. It may be too dangerous. You're absolutely. But again, they've got the media. They've got the simulacra. They've got virtual reality behind them to push whatever talking points they want. Again, nobody cares anymore. Nobody listens to them anymore. I mean, Walter Cronkite was able to get 30 million people a night watching him. 60 million of the population watched ABC, NBC, CBS for their news in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. 60% of the population, we were about 200 million. We're now about almost 350 million. And now only about 30 million people get their news from not just ABC, NBC, and CBS networks, but also the 24/7 cable channels, CNN, Fox, and MSNBC. We have the same amount of people that one anchor could get in a single night watching the whole of cable and network news. And even though our population is almost doubled. So nobody's paying attention to legacy media anymore. That's what they're not getting. So you're right. I think it would be dangerous for them, but they're such loons, they may not know. Thank you, Raven. Chris Creative, isn't Kemp mad Trump supported Purdue for good? Yep, this is Kemp's retribution. Yep. He's putting personal animus over and against party at one level, but he's a full-blown establishment guy on the other. He's a rhino. He plays the game. It's a business model for these guys. This is how you achieve power and affluence, the likes of which you never even imagined. I mean, you don't start a business, you run a state. That's how you get power and affluence. You don't run a business. You don't try to become Elon Musk. No, just, get in good with a political party establishment, get them to back you with millions and millions of dollars. And because you made all these guys millions and millions of dollars and made them all rich, they will make sure that you make millions and millions of dollars, just as long as you don't ever try to turn them in or, actually hold them to any kind of account legally and the like. So it's a business model, and he's part of it. So he's ingratiating himself with the donor class that keeps this whole neo-feudalized system afloat. Brian Kemp, every time he turns down a request to shut this thing down, his net worth among the donor class just went up. That's how you have to understand. That's why in the end, it's us and Trump. It's not the Republican Party. F them. They're no help whatsoever. Literally no help whatsoever. Thank you, Chris. Josh, Dr. Steve, I live in Georgia. Kemp is worthless. I'm with you, man. Georgia's the second biggest black population in the country. If Trump holds rallies in lower income areas, he would dominate the non-white vote. I agree with you 1,000%, and I would love to see him do it. Again, I think this is one of the reasons why they're trying to keep him from campaigning, with 4 different indictments of him having to appear in court. Although the Manhattan DA looks like it's a joke and nobody's taking that seriously anymore. But they're trying to keep him locked down from doing precisely that. I think if he started doing inner city, rallies across the nation's cities, it would be a game changer, just like it was in 2016 when he was doing rural rallies in counties that never once had a presidential candidate visit them. Certainly Hillary didn't. So remember, he had county after county after county in Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Trump was the only presidential candidate ever to come out and visit them. And they showed up in droves. You've seen it all. I mean, they're packed house, people out, just, overflow attendance in the parking lot. And everyone loved it. And everyone had an amazing time. Imagine if we saw the same thing in inner cities. Imagine if we saw the same thing. with the kind of energy that we saw. I mean, after the mugshot, I mean, it was just unbelievable. And again, the key there is you take somebody in the inner city. How many billionaires do they know? Right. This is the way Robert Barnes explained it. I thought it was brilliant. How many billionaires do they know? None, obviously. I don't know any billionaires, right? So how many billionaires do they know? None. How many people have got mugshots do they know? Well, plenty. I know people who've had mugshots. You know people who've had mugshots. So what that mugshot did in an instant is it moved Trump from one cultural space to another cultural space. Now he shares something in common with them. Now they get each other, as it were. That's the key. That's the key to understand the significance of the mugshot for many disadvantaged communities, particularly in rural areas or the inner cities and the like. And again, it could be a game changer. So I agree with you 1,000%, Josh. Well done. Servant of God, my friend, good to see you. Did Trump plead guilty? Because no, St. Paul Pioneer Press is saying that in their paper. They're lying. No, he pled not guilty. Also, you see the stuff I posted in the Insiders Club about Vivek last night. I have not checked her inside, and I will check, servant of God. But yes, is it bad? It may be bad. Yeah. So the Oppo research is coming out. I said it from the beginning. I said I really like Vivek. I think he's very sharp, and I think he's running a very good campaign for someone who has no chance of winning, but who's auditioning for the VP spot. Far better than DeSantis or Christie. Or I mean, again, they're just going for donors at this point. They're just this is a retirement fund for them at this point. So Vivek, I see as somebody who's really finding his place in the new Patriot Republican Party, but he's going to have to answer for some things he's done and said in the past, and I have yet to see that. So, if that's what you're alluding to, I shouldn't have just presumed, but yeah, he's gonna have to answer for that. So I'll take a look at that, servant of God. Bobby Walter, elections have virtually no impact on policy. You say the policy that seated and will reseat a potato. Ask Governor Mastriano and the 5 new GOP senators and the 70 new congressmen from the red tsunami. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. If the policy that seated and will reseat a potato, ask Governor Mastriano and the 5. So you're talking about? Are you talking about the Pennsylvania purely, or just the new GOP senators in Washington and the 70 new congressmen from the red tsunami? Yeah, I mean, I get what I think. Again, we just have the study that shows that in the end, if you're a top income earner and you get in with the donor class and you want an issue passed, but 90% of the population doesn't want it, they'll find a way. They just find a way to do it. But if 80-90% want something passed, they're passionate about an issue, but the donor class isn't, it tends not to get passed. That's just the trend over the course of 20 years. That's the trend, both Republican and Democrats. A very objective study. So now, again, this is what made Trump so dangerous, is he wasn't controlled by the donor class, and he was willing to dismantle it. He tried to work with them, and Trump 47 would not work with them. That he's already made that very clear. He's going to round them up. That's what he's going to do. Thanks, Bobby. Mitchell, do you think we would go to war with Russia? I'm hoping not. So Tucker's just trying to push the logical outworking. So there's a couple of assumptions. One, everything they're doing with Trump isn't working, and he's only getting stronger, and he will continue to only get stronger as the economy weakens. Number two, the propaganda that they've been feeding us 24/7, including from Fox News and the New York Post, about what's happening in Ukraine with Russia is virtually 100% false. It's all falling apart. It's all collapsing in their face. It's exactly what the stuff we were hearing about Afghanistan. Yep, we got 300,000 troops ready to take on the Taliban. No, they're not going to fall. They're not going to topple. What happened in a week? They toppled. The whole thing fell apart. Trillions of dollars, thousands of American soldiers dead, all so that we can have Taliban Part 2. It was a travesty beyond. But what it's about to happen in Ukraine is going to make that look competent. It's going to make that botched withdrawal look like a success. When you see what appears to be, if McGregor and Ritter and others, their analysis, which more and more looks like it's getting spot on, more and more the media is starting to kind of starting to panic and admit it. There's not going to be much of a Ukraine left when this is done. And now what? Again, all those hundreds of billions, all of those promises, they'll go in and they're going to take back Crimea. You just went. Oh, Putin's falling apart. Coup, Prigozhin. It's all good. I mean, it's good effect. So you put those, everything they do with Trump isn't working. A recession's coming, and our Ukraine policy is falling apart. And third, these guys are nuts. These guys are insane. So what's the only thing you can do to stop Trump and stop the humiliation internationally with Ukraine? Just try to take Russia out the hard way. So I hope not. I think it would be insane. I do. I think it would be utterly insane to do that. So there you go, Mitchell. Scary stuff. I know. Catherine Rex, first time chatting here. Thank you, Catherine. Great to have you, and thank you for the gift. I want to say how much I love listening to your show. I wanted to ask if there was something we as American citizens can do. Petition, court motions, ethics complaints. Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot you can do. Again, the problem is that they don't listen. They don't do anything, right? That's the thing. We can have all the laws in the books, but if they don't enforce them, like this feckless attorney general in Georgia, he's supposed to get involved. He's supposed to be basically dismissing this case right now, and he's not in Fulton County. So yeah, Catherine, if you join our Insiders Club, if I could plug that, this is stuff we talk about a lot, particularly on Monday nights when we have a live Q&A via Zoom, your special and private Q&A with me on Monday nights. And there's a lot of networking. We have over 3,000 members. There's a lot of networking on there of what people are doing. I would also I would recommend that you get in touch with Free PA. Free PA, you can find them. You should be able to find them on Facebook or just look them up online. They are an amazing activist group that have basically taken over the Pennsylvania Republican Party, and they orchestrated the very first referendum in our nation's history that ended a lockdown. They put forward a referendum and passed it successfully back in 2020, 2021, that successfully ended the very draconian lockdown instituted by their far left governor, Tom Wolf. They are phenomenal. They have flipped school board after school board after school board. They're just from what I have seen, they're one of the, and that's part of what our documentary is all about, is really this Free PA movement. They're one of the most organized and smart and strategic groups I know out there. So contact Free PA and they're very open, as I understand, to other people from other states to show you what you can do and to help out. There's also in Shasta County, if I recall, it's Shasta County. I may be wrong. What was it now? I think it's the Red, White, and Blue Project in Shasta County, California. They've also taken over a county, big county in California, in rural California. And they can give you all the different things, all the different possibilities, what you can do. And then for me, that's better too, because you're getting plugged in. And that's what I want to see you, Catherine, do. You got to get plugged in to networks. So it's not just like write a petition or do this and that. No, get plugged in with a group of people generally online. And then what you guys do together is you strategize and you implement. Then you take a step back, analyze and adjust. Okay, what went well, what didn't go well. All right, let's go now here, and you just keep pushing back. That's what they did behind the Berlin Wall. They didn't have the beauty of the internet to do it. They did it in secret, underground meetings. But now we can do it online, and we can just keep pushing back and keep punching holes in our own Berlin Wall. So Free PA, and then check out, if I recall, it was Red, White, and Blue Project, Shasta, California, Shasta County, California. Thank you, Catherine. Vicky, what do you think, Brian? Now, are you being funny? Are you being funny? Tell us what you. If you're coming in late, I despise the man. I think he's literally no different than Nancy Pelosi. Again, when it comes to the balance of power in our politics, he's all for maintaining the establishment power, the amount of power and money and influence of bureaucrats and billionaires coming together. And he right now, in refusing to shut down this Fulton County travesty, he is guaranteeing a very, very nice retirement from a number of anti-Trump donors, both Democrat and Republican. They are going to reward him handsomely. So he's a sick lunatic. Antoine, no, there you go. Antoine, it seems as though the globalists are going after Biden and Putin. Oh, Biden? But I think I'd rather deal with Putin, the Russia devil I know. I think you meant Trump. I'm going to assume you meant Trump, because that doesn't make sense, because Biden is the globalist. But I think I'd rather deal with Putin. I think, but I get the second part of your question. The second part of your question is I'd rather have a Putin than a Biden any day, right? Yeah, I get you, and a lot of us feel the exact same way. No, Putin, I think, is one of the most misunderstood international leaders among Westerners. I think it largely because of just all the anti-Russophobic crap we've been fed for the last 10 years, which many believe is a psyop to get us ready for a hot war with Russia. We're getting it right now with China and Taiwan. But if you take a step back, what Putin did was astonishing. Putin actually overthrew his own deep state. He had an oligarchical run, billionaire bureaucrat government that was formed by Yeltsin. And, all the communist owned, state-owned entities all got owned and gobbled up by these oligarchs that became super billionaires. They controlled every district in Russia. Basically, all the government bureaucrats were helpless in the midst of their power and their influence. More reporters were killed, were assassinated under Yeltsin than Putin. A lot of people don't realize that, because again, the oligarchs are running things, not so much Yeltsin. He's just drunk. He didn't do anything. Putin got in 2000, and he was handpicked in order to keep that system going. And astonishingly, it became very clear in the mid-2000s, he was flipping it on its head. And he was restoring Russia. And you talk to any major commentator in Russia today, they will tell you, whether you love him or hate him, everyone agrees Putin puts Russia first. He was the first, as it were, America first president, but Russia. He put Russia first, and he knew that if Russia was going to have a future, it is going to have to find its own way. It's going to have its own unique space on this planet, space in this world. And that's when he started to argue for the Ruski Mir, the Russian world. A unique Russian civilization is going to have to re-rise out of the ashes, out of the demise of 70 years of communism, and restore the glory of Holy Rus, as he would call it, for generations to come. Only that would be strong enough to hold Russia together and not, allow it to split apart. Because remember, Russia lost a third of its territory overnight after the fall of the Soviet Union, with all the, with all the secessions from Georgia to Belarus to Ukraine and the like. So yes, I'm with you. I think Putin is very admirable in terms of what he's been able to do, and he's not just taking on his own deep state; he's taking on the globalists internationally as well, and astonishingly so, and with incredible success. And that's why they hate him, and that's why they want to take him out. So, very good, Antoine. Thank you for that, Antoine. John, we seem. Thank you for your gift, John, from the Great White North. We see many among the MAGA politicians denouncing rhino funding to Ukraine, but do you think there will be any challenge to the billions sent to Israel? Now, that's a good question, John. That's a good question, largely because Israel is now ingratiating itself to the establishment in Washington, D.C. So Israel right now, so the way Middle East powers and a lot of geopolitical strategies see Israel, when all said and done, is Israel's just the United States Central Intelligence Agency planted in the Middle East. That's all they see. They don't see democracy and, rule of law and everyone, gay marriage, it's just, it's an enlightenment society in the midst of all of these, Muslim, knuckle draggers and all that. When it comes to geopolitical strategy, Israel is simply the CIA. That's how it's seen, for right or for wrong. Okay? It's Victoria Nuland in the middle of the Middle East. And as long as Israel played the game with Washington, D.C., everything was fine. And with Brussels, for that matter. But Israel hasn't been playing the game. Israel has been turning inward and is going full theocrat and going full civilizationalist state. The Orthodox population that's taking over there. Remember, they were only a fifth of school children back in the 1960s. Today, they're nearly half. They're estimating by 2030, 2050, they'll be the majority. They're not interested in those politics. They're interested in worshiping God and having a theocratic Israel. And so this judicial reform that's been holding them back from that, because in Israel, the government does not appoint judges. Judges appoint themselves. The Supreme Court in Israel, the High Court, the judges appoint their own successors. The Knesset does not get to appoint the successors. And neither does the prime minister, like we have the president who does it, and then Senate has to approve it. They don't have anything like this. So they've maintained a very far left-wing secular court, while the nation as a whole has turned radically ultra-Orthodox Jewish. So the court reforms have been to bring the court into alignment with that movement, which it's doing. And so right now you have many, many people inside DC very, very upset at that. They do not like that. And also because Bibi Netanyahu and a lot of the more right-wing movement are kind of pushing off. They're actually more interested in working with Putin and with Xi than with the United States. They see the United States as just very corrupt and creepy and woke, and they tend to be moving away. So yes, the answer to that's a long way of saying yes. You may end up seeing billions stopped from going to Israel as well. But we'll see. Again, culturally, yes, but in terms of security, maybe not, just because of how small Israel is, and they need all the friends they can get. So we'll see. Thank you, John, for that. Titan, thank you so much for that gift, Titan. Bernard, hey, doctor, do you think SCOTUS will have to rule on trumped-up charges against her? Yeah, I do. That's the way Jonathan Turley, my namesake, is talking. It's the way Alan Dershowitz is talking. That's the way Robert Barnes is talking. At some point, the Supreme Court's going to have to step in. Turley thinks it'll be sooner rather than later. Barnes is skeptical on that. I am as well, but we'll have to see. But I think the Supreme Court will come in and put an end to this at some point. Whether it be before the election or after, we'll have to see. Next, Salt of the Earth. Turley, thank you for all you bring to us. Salt of the Earth, thank you as well. And if that's a Ed Snowden tip of the hat, God bless him as well. God bless Snowden and what he revealed. He was really on the cutting edge of all this stuff. Thank you, Salt of the Earth. Titan to Bronze, what are the chances to go to war with Russia? And if we do presidential elections get canceled? Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I still think it's remote in the end because I think cooler heads prevail. I hold out that hope. I think cooler heads in the military, in the Pentagon, prevail. They've war gamed this. There's a lot of propaganda out there. I mean, what do you have? You have Peter Zion going around pushing the Pentagon propaganda that were we to fight a war with Russia, the casualty ratio would be 1,000 to 1 Russians. because they've been performing so pathetic and they're so drunk and can't even fuel their tanks. And I mean, he's just pushing DC deep state talking points. It's like literally like he's reading off CIA psyops. I mean, there's so much crap out there. But when the crap is over, or when they shut the doors, when they're behind the scenes, they see the war games. They know the United States, as Doug McGregor said, is not a land force. We are an air and sea force. We are not a land force. Just ask Afghanistan. Just ask Iraq. Just ask Syria. We are not a land force. We are a sea force. And we are an air force. No question, unrivaled. Well, our Navy is now getting rivaled by China. China, as I understand, has a larger Navy than we do already. And by 2030, it might even be double. But and then their Air Force will come in and just overwhelm us as well. But be that as it may, as long as we've got nuke power, we're fine domestically. We don't have to worry about it. In terms of land war, Russia is the number one power on the planet. Russia can take casualties in a way we can't. As everyone talks about, Russia's had 30. Well, they'll say that Russia's had 150,000 casualties. I think it's more like 30,000. Russians knew going in they'll have 30,000 casualties. They can handle casualties. They lost 700,000 men, if I recall correctly, in World War II. They can handle casualties. They've got the stomach for it. They've got the 1,000-year tradition for it. We can't. We can't handle 10 soldiers killed. We can't. And the NATO powers know it. That's the theory of what's happening here. Ukrainians, as part of the same orthosphere of Russia, Ukrainians can handle casualties. They can handle it. They don't start freaking out when 50,000 of them die. Oh, no, 50,000, it's a rough bet. It's a meat grinder in there. All right, let's go. Let's take it. They can handle it. But they don't have the equipment. They don't have the intelligence. They don't have the technology. NATO nations cannot handle the casualties, but they do have the technology, the intelligence, and the weapons. So the theory that George Soros first put forward in 1993, you can read his paper, if I recall, it's NATO and the New World Order. It's online. Soros, after he made his billions, just sat around and read and wrote all day. And so he's actually a very prolific scholar in that sense. But Soros just came out and said, bottom line, if we're going to take out Russia, what we do is we enlist Eastern European troops who can handle the casualties just because they have the cultural stomach for it. And we equip them with NATO technology. And you put those two together, the hardened strength of Eastern European soldiers with the technologically superior equipment and intelligence of NATO, there's no way Russia could win. That's the theory. And that's what we're seeing play out. The Victoria Nuland orchestrated coup in 2014 in the Maidan Revolution, right, which is just a color revolution, that was the precursor to a war with Russia, vicariously fought through Ukraine by virtue of the technology of NATO. That's what we're in. And what Tucker's so worried about is that because it's become such an unmitigated disaster for NATO and the woke Western powers, that they're going to try to fight Russia themselves. But in the end, I don't think they will, because they know we can't handle it. We don't have a stomach for casualties. The casualties that would come from that would be beyond belief. It would be beyond belief. We couldn't even imagine something like that. So that's the one thing I think that holds us back from it. So would we have presidential elections? Who knows? I don't put anything past these guys. I mean, again, remember, all conspiracy theories are derived from the assumption, first, that there are conspiracies, that people have conspired. You see it in wars. You see it all the time. Of course, there's conspiracies. People conspire all the time. There are conspiracies. And number two, the people who rule us are very, very evil people. And evil people do evil things. The people who rule us are very, very evil. They're not just incompetent. They are, thank God. But they are also very, very evil. And evil people do evil things. And they come together. They conspire together to do evil things. So, I mean, I wouldn't put anything past them. All right. Thank you, Titan. Spandon, thank you for the gift. GOP is spineless, but are people that brainwash that they can't differentiate what's right? Yes and no. I think in places like our inner cities, in Silicon Valley, in our cosmopolitan centers, they've been conditioned into what's called hypernormativity. And so Soviet scholars in the last decades of the Soviet Union did a very interesting study on the Soviet population in the 70s and 80s. And what they found is everyone with alcohol. I saw this personally. I went to school with a lot of people from behind the Berlin Wall. My first degree was in music. And I went to school with a lot of people from behind the Berlin Wall. And East Germany, Poland, Hungary, at that time, Yugoslavia. Every single one of them knew the Soviet Politburo were a bunch of liars. Every one of them. Every single one. That was the difference between them and the Chinese students. All the Chinese students tend to trust their government. It's very, very interesting, as they do to this day. China's government, all independent polling shows the Chinese love their government. They love they all think they're getting rich off of it, basically. But back then, 70s and 80s, they all knew they were liars. They all knew it. But they still trusted them. They still supported the system. So how do you put those two things together? Well, they called it hypernormativity. They know they're liars, but they had been so conditioned, their cognized conception of the world had been so conditioned that they could not imagine an alternative system. They could not imagine an alternative to the lies. So the lies take on a normativity. It's not normal. It's not really there. It's a hypo means above in the Greek. It's a hypernormativity. It's a virtual reality in many respects that they cannot conceive of any alternative, from which they cannot conceive any alternative. I think that's what's going on. I think there is a brainwashing, but it's not a brainwashing where they don't know, they don't realize they're being lied to. They know they are. They know they're being lied to. They know the Democrat politicians they put in for Baltimore are not going to make a whit of difference. They know their lives are consigned to a rat-infested city for the rest of their lives. They know that, but they cannot conceive of any other alternative. Any other alternative, by definition, is racist. It's racist. It's like The Village. If you ever saw M. Night Shyamalan's movie, The Village, they know there's a world out there, but you don't go out, because the moment you step out from the village, monsters get you. So you got to stay within the village, and you got to trust your leaders, even if they're corrupt. So I think that's where they are right now. So, but most people, thank God, I don't think are. Most people in the United States have not reached hypernormativity. So that's the good news. Thank you, Spen. Servant of God, you're back. Have you ever heard about Kim Clement and the prophetic words of God given through him? They fit all of what's going on, including BRICS as the brothers of Goliath, ready to make the U.S. lose our credit. I will look him up, servant of God. I do not know Kim Clement. I will make a note of that. Thank you for the resource. SOG. Thank you, sir. Next. Rick Mark, what is plan B if Trump for some reason cannot run? You keep fighting back. You keep fighting back. If he cannot run, I thought if he loses, because again, guys, we're going into 2024 recognizing we have everything stacked against us, even among the Republicans. Everything is stacked against us. The only way we win is breaking through that wall. And that's where the power of the populist revolt has to be that powerful. Just like it broke through the original Berlin Wall. So what if it's plan B if Trump for some reason cannot run? If Trump can't run, there is no plan B. So I'll have Rich Barris on next week, and he has polling that shows there is no plan B. the GOP would suffer the single greatest defeat probably in 100 years. Yeah, I mean, it would just be it would make a Barry Goldwater defeat in '64 look like a walk in the park, because the polling shows that the Republican Party would probably lose 30 to 40% of their voting bloc. Ross Perot took away 20%. Trump will take away about 40%. We may just have to write him in. And that's his polling has shown. 30 to 40% of Trump supporters, or 30, 40% of the Republican Party would write Trump in or not vote. So it would be a disaster for the Republicans if he's not on. That's why Rich calls it the Trump or bust vote. It's the Trump or bust vote. Forget the never Trump vote. It's the Trump or bust vote. And again, that's what, ironically, I think Democrats are pushing, and what the establishment Republicans don't get. I think the Democrats understand that better than establishment Republicans. Establishment Republicans genuinely, the Ben Shapiro's, they genuinely seem to think that were Ron DeSantis on that ticket, he would win. They actually think that. They genuinely feel that way. It's pretty astonishing stuff. But they're lunatics. There's no data on that whatsoever. Thanks, Rick. Kim X, thank you for the gift, Kim. Very 2024. I love it, Kim. That's awesome. Thank you, Kim. Thank you. John, use mugshots as official photo after re-election. Amen. I love it, John. And that's such what Trump would do. The official 47th president of the United States portrait would be a mugshot. John, you freaking awesome, man. You rock. That is it. There you go, Josh. That's it. That is the official presidential portrait for number 47. I love it. Be the biggest lock in the eye. Wallalos! Good to see you, my friend. What do you think about the idea about BRICS being created by Goldman Sachs? Wallalos, you always come up with the funniest things. And I don't mean to be disparaging, forgive me, but being created by Goldman, I think, in the 2000s, and being part of the plan of the 2030 agenda. I think it's nuts. I do. I just don't see any evidence for that at all. But you'll have to prove me wrong. Well, you have to prove me wrong. No, if anything, BRICS is reorganized. I'm just look at what's going on in the Sahel region. I mean, BRICS is reorganized Sahel in Africa with the latest Gabon coup. I mean, the world is just reorganizing away from the UN. It's reorganizing away from the WTO. It's reorganizing away from the WTO, IMF. These are all, default dollarization, dollars default currency. These are all post-World War II creations of the United States unipolar world. The UN 2030 agenda depends on that unipolar world for its implementation. The moment you have a multipolar world, the UN, in effect, the UN doesn't die, but the UN, in trying to impose any agenda upon the world, is dead. It's over. That only happens when you have a one-size-fits-all government, centralized government, which globalism naturally moves towards. So no, I don't go there, Wololos, but we'll see. We'll have to see. All right, they keep coming in. Keep coming in. Laura, are you concerned that they're currently trying to pack SCOTUS? I'm in Arizona. It appears that they are deliberately trying to keep Kerry's case caught up in paperwork at the state level. I agree with you. She did get a good victory. She does have a new trial set to be able to get access to more of the signature verification, which, of course, Katie Hobbs' corrupt regime is preventing her from doing, even though they're public record. So she got a good victory with that, and her case is still on the dock for the Arizona Supreme Court. She's going to go all the way up to the United States Supreme Court if she has to. So yes, I think they're doing everything they can to thwart it. I'm just glad she's fighting, because the more she fights, the more she galvanizes patriots and keeps the issue of election integrity out there. They will try to, the packing the courts, that's going to be hard. That's going to be hard for the Democrats to pull off. They may try, but I don't see them doing it in the end, to be honest with you. It's just there's too many obstacles, too many people are against it. They just do that in order to write these fundraising letters. Send me money, I'll pack the courts. for the Democrat. And then Republicans play, they're trying to pack the courts, send me money. And again, it's all just a bunch of crap. They're all the same establishment. If the donor class wants it stacked, it'll get stacked. But I don't see the donor class doing anything like that at this point. Abdiel Velasquez, at what point SCOTUS can put an end to all this insanity they're doing to Trump? Well, according to John, my namesake seems to think that they can step in at any time and stop this. And they could put a stay on all of this until after the election. So let the American people decide. But I don't know. We need some legal expertise there in the form of an Alan Dershowitz or Robert Barnes or Jonathan Turley on that. J-Man Grid, will mandates come back for use of mail-in ballots? Well, again, that's the concern that they're going to come back. I don't know how many. I don't think a single red state's going to comply with it. Blue states are relevant. And again, most are red states right now, right? I think we have 30 red states, so I don't think they'll comply. And I don't think Republican legislatures would comply, even in states like Wisconsin or Arizona that have Democrat governors. So I don't see it. And Michigan as well. I don't see it happening again. We'll see, though. Jim Amador, the Hispanic vote was around 50-50. What is the latest, especially by East Coast versus West, the difference between Mexican, South American versus Caribbean countries? Yeah, so that's when you get into the devil in the details of, we'll say the Latin vote, but obviously it's going to be more Cuban, it's going to be more Venezuelan, much, much more Republican, because they're seeing the horrors of communism in their own background or lives immediately. And Nicaragua also has a very strong populist government as well, conservative government as well. Interesting enough, Mexico too, ironically, has sort of a anti-establishment populist left government, almost RFK-ish in a way. I don't know if that's too strong, too stark of a or too odd of a comparison, but Hispanic vote, what we're seeing right now is we're getting it from two angles. We're getting it from the Latino surveys themselves, that's showing Trump growing by leaps and bounds up there. I think around that 50-50 mark, if not sort of a 55-45, which again is devastating for a Democratic Party that used to be able to rely on about 70% Latino vote. So we're around 50-50. So we're getting from Latinos, and we're getting it from the non-white working class, which is dominated by Latinos. So we're seeing it's getting corroborated where the margin of victory for the left among Latinos has either shrunk dramatically or been eliminated via 50-50, or even Trump winning, like we saw what happening with DeSantis in 2022, with Miami-Dade going red. That was beyond stunning. That was like a 1984, Reagan blowout on Mondale, literally with 20-point margins. So, or we're seeing the non-white working class margin that Obama had, 70% margin, now shrink to a 10% margin. So we're seeing two corroborating polls coming at each other differently. And then I don't have the stats off the top of my head when you start actually breaking down the individual constituencies and demographics of the Latino vote, Mexican, South American versus Caribbean. But as I understand it, the farther north you get, the more Caribbean. So obviously Cuban in that sense, that's going to be overwhelmingly Republican at this point. Like I said, also Venezuelan. Am I getting my map right? On the continental side of things, South American side of things, that's going to be also leaning more heavily Republican, just because of the horrors that they're seeing in their own countries. But other than that, the West Indies, further Latin American, Mexican, Guatemalan, El Salvador. I mean, and again, keep in mind, that's the other thing. You're having the populist revolution happening in like we just saw with Argentina, with the Argentinian was it Milei, Trump down there. But the Nayib Bukele success story in El Salvador may go down as the single biggest Latin American revolution we've ever seen. And Bukele was a huge Trump fan, was on Tucker many, many times. Brilliant fellow, one of my favorite world leaders. And so something's happening in Latin America. And the question, of course, is to what extent does it actually translate here? But something's happening in general. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how Argentina and Brazil work together with BRICS. Milei does not like BRICS. He's all in with more anarcho-capitalist kind of libertarian, sort of, pro-American geopolitical sphere. So we'll have to, this is where things get very, very ambiguous when you start bringing in the multipolar world. Very good, Jim. Very good question. Basil, Tim Pool mentioned an interest in having you on a show a few days ago. Would love to see. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I love Tim. I'd love to sit down and chat with Tim. I'll be in those cool gaming chairs. I got kind of a cool gaming chair. Be in those cool gaming chairs, looking totally awkward and out of place. But no, I think we'd have a great conversation. Thank you, Basil. Servant of God asking for video later. Vivek has companies tied to Pfizer and has been a long-time advocate for human-animal chimeras for medical experiments. There you go. Yeah, he's gonna have. That's what I figured. I thought he had some pharmaceutical ties. I thought he was even shilling for them at the beginning. But we'll have to see. He is gonna have to answer for all of that. And if those answers are not satisfying to the majority of the MAGA vote, then he's not going to do it. 487, Sean Tower. Where are the GOP in Congress? Where's the whistleblower immunity for Trump testimony? Very good. Matt Gaetz talked about that, right, on subcommittee. All they have to do is have him testify. No majority required. It would block rhinos. I'm waiting on it too, 487. That's why I say, in the end, you know the answer. You know the answer. Sean Tower, you got my initials. ST, you know the answer. What's the answer? Why haven't they done it? Because the establishment is in on it. The establishment wants Trump out. That's why they haven't done it. So I know what you mean. I mean, maybe they can somehow roundabout, get us some kind of circuitous run around the establishment. I don't know. I don't know how Washington works in that sense. But they're not doing it in the end because the establishment doesn't want it. They don't want it because they want Trump out. This is a fight against. It's not Republicans versus Democrats. It's the people versus the permanent political class of both parties. So that's why again, I keep saying, like, hey, RFK would be a really good running mate, because RFK, the one thing we have in common with RFK, right? One thing is, besides his unwavered stance against vax mandates coming and big pharma and the like, the one thing we have in common is it's him versus the permanent political class. Even his own family is turned against him. So anyway, that's why I think in the end, because they want it, Sean. Republicans want Trump out. So that's why the moment they recognize we recognize that, they are going to freak out. They're putting up this front that they're fighting on our behalf. Send me money. But they don't do anything. All right. So the moment we said, you know what? I think you're not doing anything because, you know what? You think you want him out. I think you want him out just as much as Pelosi wants Trump out. So the moment they realize, we realize that, and I'm not going to send you anymore, and I'm not going to vote for you anymore, then they're going to have to do something. Sarah, in this spiritual war, you are one of our strongest generals. So thank you, Sarah. God bless. Thank you for the gift, and thank you. Thank you. I'm not worthy of that. Thank you. I'm actually a coward in many respects, but I stay in prayer daily, morning and evening, every day. And I just ask for God to be my guide and my protector, and put on that full armor of God. And thank you. With prayer warriors like you, Sarah, we're going to do it together. So God bless you. Thank you. Vicky, what do you think of Trump and Vivek ticket? So that's being talked about openly. Even Trump said he was very open to that. Again, Vivek's going to have to answer for some things he said and did. So he's going to have to, given that he can plausibly do that to the satisfaction of the MAGA faithful, I think it might be a great ticket. I think it'd be an amazing ticket. Again, Vivek just doesn't. I have not seen another Republican candidate rhetorically tie up CNN and MSNBC in the way that Vivek can. He's fearless in that sense. I mean, Trump could do it too. Trump was able to do that too. But they won't have Trump on anymore, and he won't go on them. But Vivek will, so he'd be great. Charles, Dr. Steve, I like it when you call Biden our incompetent, incontinent president. Please bring that back. F. Joe Biden and both parties. Amen, Charles. Oh, gosh, yes. Truer words have never been said. That's right. They're both parties are equally compromised, as we are finding out. And Joe Biden, of course, is our incompetent and incontinent president. I will bring that back just for you, Charles. And thank you for the gift. Very kind of you. Thanks for always tuning in on Fridays, too. The Moral Reform of Chronicles. Thank you for being our own version of Gandalf during these tough and interesting times. I have to grow my beard out a little bit longer. And for helping us to keep our heads above water so that we don't cry rivers of tears. We love you so very much. Moral Reform Chronicles, I love you. Thank you for that gift. And again, thank you for that all too generous comparison to Gandalf. I love Gandalf too. You're the best, and you guys are my Aragorn. So just keep fighting away. Bud G, has anyone ever investigated about how much Ukraine corruption was ended? How clean is the current regime? So much life and money wasted? No, because it's irrelevant. So much money and life wasted. You're absolutely right. It's the saddest thing. It is. Again, I pray for Ukraine every day. It's the saddest thing. And no, they don't care. They don't care. Again, this isn't about Ukraine. This is about taking out Russia. This is about taking out Putin. Putin did not play the globalist game that Yeltsin played, and he stands in the way of a DC-dominated unipolar world when all said and done. A DC-dominated unipolar world maintained by bullies in Brussels institutions and WEF green programs. Yeah, basically that's the evil triad. And Putin, Ukraine again was irrelevant to it. It was Putin that was standing in the way of this, and they saw Ukraine armed with NATO weaponry as the way that they could take down Putin. And it's not happening. It's falling apart. Rick Mark, it's a worldwide fight. Deep state governments trying to control people. Greetings from Germany. Greetings to you, sir. We will do it again. Guten Morgen. Is it still morning? No, it's afternoon. I can't say Guten Morgen. We will do it together. Oh, it's evening for you for sure. We'll do it together. We will win. Love is on our side. Also, sense of humor. They don't have any of it. You're absolutely right. They don't. Oh, and thank you for the euro too, Rick Mark. Yeah, and AfD, number 2 party in most popular party in Germany. Now that the Greens are all falling apart and the Liberal Democrats are falling apart, CDU is still on top. We'll see if we can get AfD above them if they don't get banned first, all in the name of protecting democracy. True, your words are wonderful. Thank you, Rick. God bless you. God bless Germany. Thank you so much. Jeff Phillips, love your show, sir. I was born in Delaware. My mom was one of just under 10 responsible for starting Biden's political career. Life is filled with irony. Of course it is. I'm sure your mom meant well. And that was our politics was very different back then. It would have been during the height of the Soviet era. And, just again, this is what's so sad about the NRO, the National Review Republicans. They can't get past Reagan. They're stuck. They're literally Amish stuck in the era of Reagan. They just don't see that we're now in the era of Buchanan. We're in a civilizational, cultural war. We're not in the ideological war that Reagan wonderfully fought very faithfully and won it. But now we're in a cultural battle. Ideology be damned, as it were. So don't be too hard on your mom. God bless her. Thanks, Jeff. Rock Dog. Thank you for the gift, bud. Dr. Steve, Trump is killed. We shut the country down until the sewer rats are fired and the uniparty is arrested. I'm a Cold War vet. God bless you and thank you for your service. And they need to be removed before they launch a nuclear war. I'm with you. And again, I think we have the power to shut down the country, very similar to what we've seen with the farmer revolts in with the yellow vest revolts in France, the farmer revolts in the Netherlands, and the trucker revolts in Italy. It didn't bring down the Macron government, but in France, but now patriots via Le Pen and National Rally and Eric Zemmour, they're more powerful than they've ever been, and it looks like they're going to win the next presidential election if the polls are, continuing, the trajectory continues. The Netherlands brought down their radical globalist government, the Netherlands protests, and the truckers protests in Italy brought down their government. So we can do it. We can do a freedom convoy on steroids here in the United States, and that would effectively shut down much of the trade infrastructure in our society. So almost everything's transported by trucks. So I'm with you, Rock Dog. Totally with you on that. Lapswat, do you ever envision the elites being arrested, Nuremberg-style trials? So, well, in my whenever I just want to feel like I'm in a happy place, that's what I put on, and I just sit back and smile and eat Skittles. And no, we'll see. We'll see how, in the end, we just want them gone. In the end, we just want them gone. It didn't happen in the Soviet Union. It didn't happen in Eastern Germany. I mean, well, Ceausescu got it, obviously, in Romania, but that was the only place. Other than that, I remember, Václav Havel in the then Czechoslovakia and then in Czech Republic. I mean, his thing was, look, they're done. It was horrible. Let's move on. Even, I'm not necessarily a big fan of him, but Nelson Mandela did the same thing in South Africa with the apartheid system. It's done. It's over. Let's move on, and let's just make sure they never come back. That's the key. And again, there's less of them than there is of us. I mean, they're 1% of the population. We're 99. So no, I don't see Nuremberg trials or anything like that, to be honest with you. But we'll see. I mean, Trump is talking about putting some of them in prison, which would be awesome. So we'll see, especially with Michael Flynn there. That'd be great. Rock Dog, Dusty, it is time for mega state AGs filing charges on Biden Democrats since the Unit Party crossed the Rubicon going after Trump. I would refine that, Rock Dog, and say they crossed the Rubicon now going after Abbott, Greg Abbott. That's a no-no. You can't go after Abbott. Abbott is an establishment-approved governor, donor class protected, and now the LA DA looks like he's about to go after Abbott. That's the crossing of the Rubicon as far as the permanent political class is concerned. They want Trump out. They didn't cross the Rubicon when they indicted Trump. That's the donor class gave the green light to that. The donor class said, the billionaires and bureaucrats said, we want him out. He is a threat to the very establishment from which we derive our wealth and affluence. So they have to get rid of Trump. We, the people, are the ones who are rising up and keeping him afloat and keeping him powerful and possibly putting him in a position where he will rectify this. But it's when they start, it's because Democrats are so utterly woke and clueless. I mean, they are literally degenerate. I mean, this is what Romans 1 talks about. When you become degenerate, you end up falling victim to a reprobate mind. You end up quite literally losing your mind. And so they've lost their minds. And so now they're going after other Republicans, but who are establishment and donor class approved. And that's when they'll fight back. That's when they'll say, oh, well, you want to do that? Okay, well, we've got 30 DAs, 30 state DAs and innumerable county DAs that'll bring charges against you. So, and then they would effectively shut down our politics, which would not be necessarily a bad thing. Next, how are we doing? Salt of the Earth, my friend. Back again, Snowden. Oh, Snowden is my name. No relation to Edward Snowden. I love the show. Just a quick shout out to Edward Snowden. Thank you, Salt of the Earth. Thank you. Kind of good name. Love it. Liab, Doc, give me your thoughts on the WinRed donation site, please. I haven't donated to Donald J. Trump because I don't trust them. What site is the best way to donate? Well, I would have thought it was Save America PAC, Republican Party fundraising platform endorsed by the RNC. WinRed is endorsed by the RNC. I would stay away from it. I would say it's a Ronna McDaniel. If it's a Ronna McDaniel approved organization, I would stay away from it. because it's going to be funding rhinos. And it's going to be funding it's funding rhinos because it's ultimately funding establishment donor class approved candidates. Our enemy are the Republicans every bit as much as Democrats. Republicans aren't as insane and nuts, but they are part of an establishment class that is seeking right now to maintain its refeudalized power. It's caste system like power that keeps us from having any meaningful say in what our republic looks like. So they're just every bit as much a part of it as. That's why Ted Cruz, we're going to, this is the worst day for our republic. We lost our republic with this entire. Oh yeah, really? What are you going to do? We're going to have to let the system play itself out. Oh, okay, good. So you're not going to do anything. No, you're going to raise money off of it. That's right. So I wouldn't give it to them. From what I see, do your own research, obviously, but if they're approved by the RNC, RNC should starve and die. RNC is disgusting. The RNC, the Republicans Governors Association, that did actually starve the Mastriano campaign, refused to give them a dime. They're all sick, donor class controlled establishment institutions. Don't have anything to do with them. Thank you, Law. Catherine, we are getting a lot of men and women of fighting age. If you think that's the reason behind the open borders, using them as fodder. Oh, I would hope not. Then thank you for the gift. I'd hope not, but I don't put anything past these. Evil people do evil things, so I don't put anything past them. But I would hope not. That would be, again, just so tragic. We've done it to the Ukrainians. I'd hope we don't do it here. Lisa, why aren't you telling us about the continuity of government orders? Because I don't know about them, Lisa. Why aren't you disclosing Trump signed his not guilty plea as President Donald Trump? Why aren't you disclosing publicly available orders by DJT? Because I think you're doing it, Lisa. I'm not. I don't know anything about it. I don't. It's just not part of my field of analysis. So there you go. I read it out for you, but thank you for the gift. So one more time. So do your own research. Why aren't you telling us about the continuity of government orders? Why aren't you disclosing Trump signed his not guilty plea as President Donald Trump? And why aren't you disclosing publicly available orders by DJT? So anyway, guys, do your research on it. I'm not, because I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you. I'm following the news and I'm analyzing current events in light of conservative trends. That's what I'm doing. Thanks, Lisa. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, when the Soviet Union collapsed, we'd never stop looking at Russia, the enemy. I agree. With that, do you think that is why the propaganda will never change? Seems like we always have to have an enemy. I agree. Yeah, it's called resentment politics. And resentment politics, historically, it's been practiced since ancient Greece. Resentment politics try to create a foreign enemy so as to preserve internal unity. They're very, very scared about resentment. Politicians are. And the more resentful the people become towards the politicians, the powers that be themselves, then the more they are going to possibly overthrow it. Just ask Marie Antoinette. So if we can keep that resentment bound up and projected on a foreign enemy domestically, we're okay. Now, we've been doing resentment politics since the 1960s internally, domestically, where our powers that be found that if you created an enemy inside, if you were able to deflect any natural resentment towards the political class onto somebody else inside your nation, then you get a double benefit. Not only is resentment deflected away from you, but then you become necessary in order to defeat that evil from inside at home. But generally speaking, they always looked at foreign enemies as a way of maintaining internal cohesion and loyalty. And that's I've clearly been what Russia's been over at least the last 10 years. I mean, really explicitly, but certainly since the end of the Cold War, or since the beginning of the Cold War. Thank you, Rock Dog, and thank you for all your gifts. JP, I think the mugshot should be the picture they run election night when they're counting the ballots. I love it. They probably will. I mean, CNN and MSNBC will probably say, "Yeah, how could you be voting for a felon? How could you be voting for a felon?" Oh, that'd be awesome. But for the rest of us, yeah, We'll all be wearing our mugshot shirts and all that. Yeah, check out we've got our own unique mugshot shirts at our merch store. Check it out. TurleyTalks.store, if I recall, .com.store. Awesome. The More Reform. Welcome back, my friend. And thank you again for the gift. You're too kind. Dr. Steve, thank you for being. This is Gandalf. Thank you. We've already seen that. Thank you, Moral Reform. BW, think they have the printers running already? Yeah, probably. Yes. Again, we're going to have to overwhelm the margins of fraud, utterly overwhelm them. Yeah. Tree 3 Climber, will spineless McCarthy ever impeach Biden? Well, interestingly enough, it looks like he is. So they are doing an impeachment inquiry, and that's primarily for the powers, the subpoena powers that they have that they don't have as a oversight committee. So they'll have investigative powers that they don't have. And it sounds like he said he's going to launch an impeachment inquiry just for those powers. Whether he'll ever go through an impeachment, we'll have to see. It's whether the donor class wants it or not. That's bottom line. The Kiefer, thank you, sir. Doc, what are your thoughts on the militarization of domestic agencies such as the IRS? A particular Gateway Pundit article reports that they have been buying up ammo, weapons, en masse. Rather ominous. It is rather ominous, and it's part of the continued weaponization of the deep state. Again, when you have a refeudalized society where you have a new caste system brought in, where billionaires and bureaucrats operate all the levers of power, and then those levers of power are used at their disposal in order to keep and maintain that structured society from which they gain their power and their influence. Yeah, I mean, everything ends up getting, in some way, shape, or form, weaponized. Pronouns are weaponized now. Effing pronouns are weaponized. Kindergarten's weaponized. Libraries are weaponized. Right? I mean, if you have the wrong view of pronoun, if you use the wrong pronoun, if you so much as say, I don't want that pornographic book in my kid's kindergarten class, you're now an enemy of the state. You're an enemy of the state. So yeah, it's all part and parcel of a globalist system that by its nature centralizes into a managerial class that uses, as technocrats, uses technology and technocratic means of control and dominating, because technology by its nature controls. So they tap into technology. That's where they get their money and their power and also so forth. And they also get their raison d'être for being in power, because they're considered to be experts, right? I believe in the science. They're the experts, called expert systems in globalist powers. So the more they convince you that your safety and your security is guaranteed as long as I'm in power, the more they convince you of that, which is what they're trying with COVID and the like, the more power and manipulation, coercion they will exercise. And so the ultimate coercion, of course, is the weapon. So very good, Kiefer. Bud G, I'm swinging towards a Turley. God bless you, Bud G. I told you I'm a wimp, man. I'm a coward. I just sit back behind. I've always sat behind a lectern or a camera, one or the other, right? Or no, I've always a lectern or a mic, a classroom or a camera. That's it. Thanks, Bud G. God bless. JP, it's hard to get excited by Trump's polling when there's so much that can happen between now and the primary. Sure, Republicans could do to Trump what the Dems did to Bernie Sanders when Hillary Clinton ran. No, they can't. I don't agree with that. I know where you're coming from, JP, and thank you for the gift, JP. As always, I know where you're coming from. I mean, they're gonna do. No, I mean, they're doing what they're doing to Trump makes what they did to Sanders look like child's play. But no, I don't think Sanders has the same kind of social dynamics surrounding him that Trump does. So I don't think they can be as successful with Trump as they were with Sanders. I mean, they're having to indict him. Nothing's politically is working, so they're having to indict him. But I'm with you. They're going to throw everything at him possible. What I hope to show was that there is a dialectic, that the more they throw at him, the stronger he becomes. And that dialectic is setting up for a clash. That's even Tucker's talking about. And so get excited. Seriously, JP, get excited for the fact that the more they throw at him, the stronger he gets. That's the dialectic that you definitely want to get excited by. But you got to get, again, it's the Stockdale principle. You got to know at the same time that they're going to throw everything at him. And they cannot let him be president again. So this is it, man. You know, this is the death match, as it were. Oh gosh, well, I don't want to say that, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, this is it. And it's all coming down to this. Now, again, I'm not, if Trump loses in 2024, again, like the Berlin Wall, we just, the tanks came in, they crushed us. Okay, now what? What as we amass and we come back even stronger the next time? Because that's what they did in Poland. That's what they did in Hungary. That's what they did in Czechoslovakia. We just keep coming back and back and back, and eventually they fall. So thanks, JP. Servant of God, thank you again. Kim Clement, he died in November 16. He gave a word about 9/11/96, worked with the FBI on a project. Eldest daughter, Dawn, can give you a lot of details. Excellent, servant of God. I will check that out. I already have that written down there. JD Worth, do you think they will shut the government down so they can't impeach Biden? No, I don't think so. If they were all in with Biden, they would. But no, I think in the end, Biden is expendable, and they'll just find somebody else to replace him with. Raven, welcome back. Thank you again for the wonderful gift. Way off topic, and I apologize. Have you ever heard about Africa fault line is cracking and becoming a separate continent years down the road? I'm sure people were saying it's biblical, just the research I've seen, but ironic. Anyway, interesting. No, I haven't. I've heard of something like that, but I've never done my own research to be able to comment. So thank you, Raven. That's why. Anybody else in the audience want to add some comments on that, please do. Thank you, Raven. Generally, Simone, good to see you from you. Are the developments in Michigan leading some election corrections? It seems that the truth is coming out for the umpteenth time. Yeah, again, corrections hopefully for 2024. No, I think 2020 is done, but we'll have to see. Are you talking about some of the court cases that's going on there? Court development. I mean, Wisconsin did it. Wisconsin reversed. We had the federal judge throw out, or was it state judge throw out? What is it? Over 200,000 votes as illegal 2 years after the fact. We all knew they were illegal because Wisconsin has some of the most strict secured mail-in ballot regulations on the books today. But yeah, I mean, for 2024, yes, not for 2020. Jeff Phillips, thank you for the gift. One more thing. I live in Long Island. Who can I support or get together with that can support a thoughtful, populist American agenda, not run us? Well, you've been doing well, and you had a great 2022 with Lee Zeldin on top of the ticket. I think all 4 of your representatives are now Republican on Long Island. So you seem to be doing well. I mean, I think Zeldin is, as in terms of viable candidate, Zeldin's as popular, and he was fully pro-Trump, but Zeldin is as close as you can get. I would look for any groups surrounding Zeldin, and again, look for any. You might want to talk to Free PA, since Free PA is not going to be too far away from you. I mean, when I lived in Newtown, Pennsylvania, half the people I lived next to worked in Manhattan, so they might have some sources for you as well for Long Island. That would be really cool. That'd be really neat. Love to see that. Again, ironically, New York's turning red a lot. It's slow. It's slow because it's demographic driven, very Orthodox Jewish driven. We're obviously talking about Brooklyn, parts of Manhattan, and so forth, Queens. So it's happening. It's happening as the demographic is turning over. because, conservatives are having kids and liberals aren't, basically. So yeah, we'll have to. It's just going to take a while. So something right now, I would check out whatever social media platforms you can find on Facebook, and then check in with Free PA, see if they have some resources for you as well. Thanks, Jeff. Amazing, Mr. Fox. Nuremberg to Electric Boogaloo. There you go, amazing, Mr. Fox. You're always amazing. Kim X, thank you, Kim. Very, very kind. Michael Bruno, thank you for your Canadian dollars. Would it be possible for the Congress or the Supreme Court to get the U.S. military to supervise the election for accuracy and enforce unique voter IDs? No. The United States is very, very strict line of demarcation between the military and the people. We do not like using our military with the people. Well, again, maybe the National Guard or something like that, but no, I don't think so. Not at this point. We'll have to see. Servant of God, do you think DeSantis could come back from what he's done, or is his political career done for good? And you are braver than you think. You do this almost daily when others cower. God bless you. Thank you, servant of God. Well, it's through prayer, and it's through your prayers. So thank you for that. No, I think DeSantis is done. No, I mean, when you have $50 million PACs folding up and saying, all right, forget it, we're going to go support Trump, it's over. It's done. He could come back. You can always come back in a political career. There's always a possibility of a comeback. Look at Richard Nixon, for example, right? Brilliant roller coaster political career, but it'll be hard. It'll be hard for him. I think he blew it. Kim X, all patriots need to vote early and leave the opponent without enough votes to win cheat on election day. That's very, very key. Absolutely. Vote early and then come out in massive numbers on election day. We're unstoppable. Life of Brian, one of my favorite movies. If Trump is allowed to run, he wins. If he isn't, it's the end of the GOP. Win-win. I agree with you. That's interesting. I like how you're putting it. It is a win-win because the people win either way. The people rise up, and we either rebuild the Republican Party or we build a bona fide patriot opposition party with a patriot party of some kind. Love it, Life of Brian. I love the way you're thinking too. If the GOP fails to impeach, the base will abandon it. Does McCarthy know or feel it? Donor class will. Remember, the donor class have to have a seat at the table. In order to have a seat at the table, you have to at least win, a significant number of elections. You don't have to be in the majority. Remember, Mitch McConnell gets the same amount of millions, whether he's a minority leader or a majority leader. Doesn't matter. You don't have to win. They don't care. They don't give a flip. That's why they thwarted the campaign for what's his name down in Herschel Walker down in Georgia. They thwarted that campaign. He has no problem being in the minority. As a matter of fact, less headache in the minority in many respects. So they don't care. McCarthy doesn't care if he's majority or minority. Actually, McCarthy, the House is a little different because the House is much more populist, whereas the Senate is more House of Lords. So yeah, McCarthy knows it. He knows he's going to have to do something. He knows it. And the donor class but yeah, in the House, you only have real power if you can garner power, like Pelosi. That's why McCarthy wanted to be a speaker so badly. That's when you really get power. But in the Senate, you just have to be a senator. Senate is a House of Lords. They just want access at that point. So yeah, I think he knows. Homie, should we have a low-tech communication network ready just in case they shut down the internet? Yeah, there's stuff like that going on. I forget what it's called, but there's been articles written about that you have some kind of old what do you call it? Radio wave communication. Yeah, definitely. Per Peterson, thank you, sir. Thank you very, very much. And that is it, gang. Wow. Almost 2.5 hour live stream. You guys are amazing. I love you. Have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. God bless you. Again, we're having, videos will be up all throughout the weekend. Check them out. You're going to love them. We love you guys, and just keep up the great work. Strong fight ahead, no question. But I have a feeling there'll be some mead and some pipe smoking at the end of it all. So God bless you guys. Take care.